AbbVie in Sligo, with a strong track record in terms of energy management, just to chat to us a little bit about their more recent experiences. So, Peter, I think you've been here before. I won't labour the point. I'll bring you up now and get you going. Okay. Sorry, there you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my presentation here. I suppose, I just want to give a fairly high-level overview of, energy management and sustainability on our site and how it's delivered through ISO 50001 and what ISO 50001 means for us. I'm glad that there was some good presentations earlier showing how to implement it and the value, so hopefully mine will sit on top of those and show the value of 50001. Okay, so first of all, just a couple of slides here on AbbVie and our site history. Originally actually built in 2002, part of the Abbott Group, Abbott Ireland Pharmaceutical Operations, what it called focused on commercialisation of the pipeline, the drug pipeline. And our plant originally focused on potent compounds with full containment with strategic assets matched to the pipeline, and that's very important within the AbbVie manufacturing network. Okay. Major expansion completed in May 2014, announced in 2012, and effectively doubling the footprint of the site. Okay. So increased capacity for existing portfolio of medicines and support potential new therapies within AbbVie pipeline. I suppose a further slide will mention that we went from being Abbott Ireland Pharmaceutical Operations to AbbVie. So we split away completely from the Abbott Group, and we're our own standalone, if you want, corporation now, on all that goes with that. Okay. So that's the current layout of our plant. When we become AbbVie, a fairly aggressive strategy of growing the business, and on-site in Sligo, that expansion that I showed earlier, put in 1,700 metres squared of extra manufacturing space, extra warehouse space, extra lab area, focusing on advancing the pipeline and building capacity through sustainable growth. So, and we had a big day. We had an official opening, and we had our CEO, Rick Gonzalez, and Enda, Taoiseach Enda, came to site, and we celebrated the official opening of that, and we've grown and grown from then. Okay. So key drivers for energy management and sustainability in our site: high level, grow the business in a sustainable manner. Okay. And we set an energy reduction target of greater than 20% by 2020. We're actually targeting 30%, and we're on target to deliver that. Reduce energy costs and improve energy efficiencies, and reduce the CO2 footprint. So numbers I have here, our plan is to deliver on an annual basis 900,000 euros of energy savings, which we've now delivered 527 on an annual basis, and a cumulative since 2013, over 1,040,000 since 2013. And also in terms of CO2, so the drivers are CO2 cost and kilowatt hour, but in terms of CO2, 3,590 tonnes of CO2 we want to deliver on an annual basis. We've already delivered 1,844 every year, and a cumulative saving of 2,937. So those are significant numbers, and we're well on target. I suppose our current baseline for CO2 is it'll be about 8,500 tonnes. So if we're going after 3,590 out of 8,500, that's a significant number. Okay. Who delivers all this? This is our energy team. We're an ISO 50001 certified energy management system, and this is our team here. It's a multidisciplined, cross-functional team with people from engineering, EHS, engineering within our various manufacturing buildings, maintenance planning, but also finance, IT, and purchasing. So they're the core energy team. But this is the overall energy team, and that's a snapshot of all the people on site. You cannot deliver this without the support of the whole team, and you definitely cannot sustain it without the support of the whole team and the whole site. Also, our collaborators are very important to us, and we've seen the slide earlier on collaboration. It is very important, and I like to give credit back to our collaborators, which includes the SAI, and Ivan is going to come up here, Ivan Sproul from SAI. You know, we have a great relationship with them, but the support we get from SAI and the Large Industry Energy Network and the Better Energy schemes have been invaluable. Some of those are financial, grant assistance in the past. The EOS scheme, anyone that's familiar with it, that's very important to us, you know. But also the technical assistance and the general availability of, let's say, the SAI, for example, you know, to bounce ideas off, etc., etc. Certification Europe, they've certified our ISO 50001. I was talking to John Ryan earlier, and I said, well, what we like about Certification Europe is that, you know, I think we were talking about that they were like nice guards, you know. During an audit, you find that, you know, particularly the auditors we get anyway, they really help you out from a continuous improvement point of view. Your guard goes down completely, you know, and which is good, you know, and then at the end of the audit you find out, you know, about the compliance end of things. And that's really important to us, you know. The standard isn't just there to, you know, to make sure that we're in compliance with, and it is a requirement of the standard for to have continuous improvement, but it's great when the auditors are participating in that process. Okay. EFT, they delivered our energy monitoring system, and Caller are here today. I suppose some of the projects I'm going to show later on, we're based in Sligo and natural gas isn't available to us. A lot of the energy on site, the fuel was coming from kerosene. Kerosene is a higher CO2 footprint than LPG, so what allowed us to deliver a lot of the projects that I'm going to talk about later was a transition over from kerosene fueled steam boilers to LPG fueled low pressure water boilers and steam, and that has allowed us to deliver a lot of cost and CO2 savings, but more importantly it is also, the LPHW has provided if you want, a thermal sink that enables a lot of low grade waste heat recovery projects, and that brings us to another cycle of energy efficiency and further cycles of energy efficiency. American Chamber of Commerce and IBEC and Board Mona are all very important parties in terms of providing support, benchmarking, etc., etc. EM3 are starting to take over our energy monitoring on site and bring in some further best practices into how we're doing energy review, etc., etc. Electric Ireland are our electricity provider, and again, very important to us. They're not just providing electricity, they provide a lot of support, a lot of technical assistance, etc., etc. And finally, AbbVie ourselves. I suppose AbbVie on site, but also the wider corporate network, our global energy team. We've set up energy community of practices on renewable energy, on best practice, etc., etc. And the plants within Ireland are at the front of leading those energy COPs. Okay. Let me talk a bit about the process on ISO 50001 energy management. So this is kind of a summary process for, let's say, projects and initiatives that we route through the standard. Starts with ideation and selection, then concept development, basis of design, design review and approval, execution, and verification and sustaining. All of those equally important. Starting off with ideation and selection, could be an energy suggestion, or it could be a feasibility study that was done, or a gap assessment, etc., etc. We take all of those ideas, and I'll show it later, we route it through a selection process. Then for those that are selected, we go into concept development, take that into basis of design, design review and approval with all the main stakeholders on site and off-site if needs be. And then we get into execution and verification and sustaining. All of those equally important. This is the, anyone that's familiar with ISO 50001, this is the standard and the graphic that shows at a high level how it operates. I'm not here today to talk about this in detail, and some of this has already been explained, but just to give a high level overview. Again here, energy planning is very important as part of this overall process. Okay. How do we select our projects? I suppose we use a relatively simple benefit-effort matrix, and this is we apply an energy project rating system. This is updated. We have a weighted scoring matrix for benefit versus effort. So any of the projects we route through this, and but we have many suggestions and initiatives. All of them don't get done at once, so we prioritise it by using this matrix. Okay. So why should we use ISO 50001? I'm going to use this here. It's an adapted S-curve. If any of us are in manufacturing long enough or in continuous improvement are familiar with it. Okay, so you start off with a pretty flat line level of performance, and you'll identify some improvements. And if you implement those improvements, normally you'll see rapid continuous improvement, and you get to a point where the improvements are complete and walk away from it. And the improvements are maintained typically for a period of time, and then one of two things will happen. The first one is the improvements will decline, and they'll probably decline back down to your previous performance. But the second one is the improvements are maintained and you get continuous improvement. And what's the difference between those two? For us, it's ISO 50001 energy management. And when ISO 50001 energy management is applied correctly on our site, and to be honest, we've had examples where we've had some projects that have declined, and we've had to reevaluate and ensure that that the improvements are maintained and continuous improvement is found. One of the key developments, one of the key ways to ensure that the improvements are maintained and continuous improvement is to verify and sustain. And determination, to me, is a key factor in this. Okay. And one of the tools I just wanted to share with you, and I've shared this previously, one of the tools we use for verifying and sustain, and it's one of many, but this one is called the Weekly Energy Green Sheet. And some of our engineers will go around on a weekly basis and they will check and verify on the ground at the equipment or at the building management system or both or whatever that, for example, if you look at the top, we look at the key energy projects, and then we walk down to each of our buildings on site. We have 4 main buildings, 10, 20, 40 and 70. But the key energy initiatives in this and what state they're in, is it as found, as left, and where do we want it to be? And this is reported back to the energy team and to myself on a weekly basis. We have it set up that if they're not found in the correct state, we have a traffic light system here, the typical yellow, green, red, and so we're reviewing by exception here to make sure that any issues are dealt with in a timely manner. For example, we have one there in yellow, lighting and PR are controlled throughout building 20, and we have a known issue there in one section of that, and we're tracking it on a weekly basis, and we'll track it to closure. And we have a plan in place, or in the farm or the CAPA in place for dealing with that. Okay. Just want to talk about, I suppose, some of the awards and recognition we've received for our programme. 2014 Chambers Ireland Corporate Social Responsibility Award. This is a joint award with our plant in Cork, with our colleagues in Cork. We're very proud of it. Our section of that was on heat recovery, and I know Michael McCarthy is here. He may talk about the other half of that. And then in 2014, we're finalists in a number of awards, ASAI Ambition Award finalists. We made the top 3, and we're very proud of that, to be recognised in that year as being in the top 3 in Ireland, showing ambition in energy management. Finalists in the Industry Award, and in a number of awards for the Green Awards and the Farm Awards in 2014. We went to, I suppose, the standard is about continuous improvement, and our hunger for awards is about a continuous improvement as well. So in 2015, we're very proud that we won the SAI Large Industry Award. We also won the 2015 AE, the Association of Energy Engineers, Energy Management Award for Western Europe. So it's great to be recognised for Western Europe. And also in the 2015 Sustainable Energy Achievement Awards at the Green Awards. So it's nice to get recognition, whether you're a finalist or a winner. Okay. I just wanted to move on to talk about some of the key projects we have on site at the moment. This is a new project that was actually implemented commissioned in August of last year. A very interesting project, an environmental project to increase our abatement capacity on site, but a good project from an energy management point of view. We applied EED, which is Energy Efficiency Design, to this project, and as a result of that, we actually have dual dual fuel functionality, LPG versus kerosene. So I mentioned earlier we were previous kerosene, but we have the option to run either fuel. LPG is preferable from an environmental point of view, but I suppose we also have to think of business continuity and ensure that if there ever, that we have all options covered. We applied the appropriate metering on all the key utilities in and out of that piece of equipment, and we also, as part of the overall design, and I was part of this process, and so some of the other members of the energy team, we ensured that a waste heat recovery steam boiler was installed as part of that project. And this is actually going to be a game changer for us on site, because it means that the majority of steam on site now is generated by LPG. Okay. So back in 2013, we transitioned from doing all our heating from what I call kerosene to LPG. And in 2015, the majority of steam on site, and in some occasions, we plan to go to have the option to go to 100% LPG on site within the next year. So now we're going to a more carbon-friendly fuel on site. We use steam for humidification and dehumidification, so we have a decent steam load on site. Primarily, that's what we use it for. As I mentioned there, we recover waste heat as steam and generates half a tonne up to 1.5 or 1.4 tonnes of steam. Our steam load on site is 2 tonnes per hour. A significant portion of site steam will now be generated by LPG, and that is delivering the cost and CO2 reduction. Okay, nearly finished. We're looking for wind energy. In conjunction with our colleagues in Ballytivnan, Jim is here today. We have a wind mast up, and we're assessing the opportunity for wind energy. So we're glad to know there's lots of opportunity from a wind point of view in Sligo, but there are other considerations, and we're reviewing the feasibility of that at the moment. Okay. Late last year, we commissioned our heat pump and baseload chiller. So that now recovers, I suppose, waste heat from our cooling water system and returns it to our heating system. So we're very proud of that project, and it's delivering cost savings, CO2 savings, kilowatt hour savings at the moment. I suppose this is probably the last slide I have. What would happen if we didn't have energy management? So I suppose what I've done there is this slide here, I've set a baseline there at 2013, and if we didn't change, at the very least, our baseline will continue, or actually our carbon footprint would increase on site. But without energy management, we're now seeing a continuous reduction over 2014, 2015, all the way to 2020. So that's why energy management is important from carbon. You could do that likewise for cost or for kilowatt hours. Without a structured energy management system, and ours is a certified ISO 50001, it's very difficult to deliver on an ongoing basis and to sustain that type of reductions on an ongoing basis. That's my slide.
Thank you very much indeed.